Hello everyone and welcome back to Paul's Hardware. It is a rainy Saturday afternoon in Southern California and I figured what better thing to do right now than to build a computer. So I got all my parts here set up. This is actually sort of a special build. It's for my cousin and he just recently contacted me because his current computer, which is I think about 4 or 5 years old, got a nasty virus and he's like, I just don't want to deal with it. I'm going to start from scratch. So we're going to do some recovery for his current hard drive over there, try to pull his data off of it. I'm going to build him a new machine right now, or in just a few moments, and I kind of wanted to run over the parts for you guys. Then I'm going to show you a bit of the build process. It's just me filming this whole thing, so I'm not going to be able to go through it step by step, but I'll show you guys the end result once that is all taken care of. But let's start off with building a computer, or choosing the parts for a computer, because every time I do that I always try to make each one kind of purpose-built for the whoever it's being built for and whatever they're going to be using it for. So what they need is really a home system. He works from home, so he kind of has a home office there. It's mostly office type jobs he's going to be working with, but I wanted to build him a machine that was solid, that's going to last a long time. I want high quality parts because I don't want anything failing. I don't want to have to go over there to be doing fixing on this computer in the future. And then of course I wanted it to be snappy because he's moving up from like a 4 or 5 year old machine, and when he uses this one I want him to be like, oh my gosh, this is night and day difference. So here's a rundown of the parts. Let's see, I usually start off with a CPU. Oh, one other thing about this build, they don't really play many computer games, so this is sort of built to be a home computer, office computer, but I want to give them an upgrade path because they might play video games. They have some kids, they mostly play consoles, but you know, if I want to push them towards PC gaming, that's never a bad thing. So they'll have the option in the future to add maybe 1 or 2 parts to this, specifically a video card, because you might notice there's no video card right now, and that'll give them some more headroom in the future. So I based it on the Intel Core i3 3225 processor. This is a dual-core processor, but it does have the Intel HD 4000 graphics, so kind of the best of the Ivy Bridge iGPU that's available right now. And I've used the HD 4000. It works great if you want to do anything from 1080p playback videos to even some light gaming on it. If they are going to go and play some like more serious gaming, I'm going to be like, okay, at any point drop a video card into this system and you can upgrade. But this is kind of the basis for that, so I wanted a Z77 motherboard, of course, for the Ivy Bridge processor. Got the Asus P8Z77M Pro. I was actually going to go with the P8Z77M, which is a bit more of an economical choice. I'm trying to keep this within a price range for him. But actually the M Pro had a mail-in rebate that made it the exact same price as the P77M. So if you are looking to do a build similar to this, the P8Z77M by itself, totally fine, and you can save yourself 20 or 30 bucks by going with that. But anyway, for power supply, I got the Rosewell Hive 550 watt, fully modular, 80 plus bronze. Rosewell power supplies, if you go back a ways, little hit and miss from time to time, but they've really stepped up their game in power supply area. You can look at reviews on the Hive series from the actual good review sites like Johnny Guru and Tech Power Up. They either really like them or said, yeah, this is a really solid power supply, especially for the price. So 80 plus bronze, 550 watt. This is actually overkill for this build right now, but again, if they do want to drop in a video card, any video card, even up to like a 680 in the future, this thing will be able to handle. Apart from that, for the CPU, I got a custom, or an aftermarket cooler, because I absolutely hate the stock coolers. So I got the Zalman CNPS5X Performa. Really solid CPU cooler. This is not an overclockable processor, but this one will keep it cool, and it will run much, much quieter than the stock one in there, especially after you have it running for a while. For memory, I got some basic Kingston HyperX 1600 speed 2x4 gig kit, so 8 gigs total. Make use of the dual channel. For optical drive, I have an optical drive. Optical drives are so boring these days. It's like, oh, go find an optical drive that's less than $20 and that has decent reviews. This is, oh gosh, I didn't even remember what brand this is. I think it's a Lite-On, or maybe a Samsung. They're not even being very clear with that right here on the, oh, it's a Toshiba Samsung. Alright, so this is a Samsung DVD burner. I'll leave it at that. We also have a Samsung 840 series SSD. This is 120 gig. Love the Samsung SSDs. As mentioned, I want this to be quick. So SSD, I want it to be snappy, and I don't want it to ever fail in the future. So Samsung SSDs, starting with the 830 series, tons of positive feedback from that, really low failure rate. Continuing that with the 840. This is not the 840 Pro. 840 Pro uses 2 bits per cell MLC memory. It's a bit faster. 840 by itself actually uses TLC, 3 bits per cell NAND flash memory, but still very fast. Still comparable to the 830, which was super fast by itself. Rounding out the storage, Toshiba 2 terabyte mechanical hard drive right there. These prices have come down decently for mechanical hard drives. I think this was like 110 for 2 terabytes. Not quite what it was pre-flood, but it's getting there. Finally, since this case, oh, did I say the case? Roosevelt Line M Micro ATX case. This is my first time trying this one out, so I'm going to do a separate review video just on that. And then also, this has a blue LED fan in the front, and I didn't want that because it's kind of an office computer. So I did grab, this is just a leftover Silverstone 120mm fan. And that's the hardware. So I'm going to show you guys as much of this build process as I can comfortably here, filming it by myself. I'm going to use my Spyderco here to cut things as often as possible. And let's go ahead and jump into the build. And I'm back, and to be honest, I'm not sure at what point I got cut off, but basically I was building this system, getting it all set up. I got the parts in there, powered it on, and I realized it was way too loud, just far too loud for my taste, and I decided there must be something wrong. So deduced that it was actually the power supply fan that was spinning up so loud. Did a little test with the power supply fan off, and I realized that the system is very silent. In fact, let me turn it on right now for you guys. The system is very quiet. So what it was, I don't know, something wrong with the power supply fan, just spinning up too loud. Actually, I have a little bit of video comparison, which I might show you guys right now. So as you can probably tell, fan was just much louder than the replacement one, and it's got the replacement one in there right now. In order to replace the power supply, however, and here's a bit of poetic justice. So I have a separate video on that power supply, just an unboxing that I did. And in the unboxing I say it's partially modular, but it doesn't really matter, right? That there's a couple hardwired cables, because those cables everybody needs, so it's not a big deal. Well, as it turns out, if it had been fully modular, I would have been able to unplug those cables from the power supply, swap out the unit, and put it back in. However, since I had wired that, especially the big 24-pin cable, very carefully back through here, and I'll show you guys that in just a second, in order to remove the power supply, I actually had to pull the whole motherboard out and basically almost rebuild the system. So it was more work than I would have liked, but just sort of a weird confluence of things that led to that. But anyway, system's set up now. It's good to go. Very quick. I did a test boot of it. It boots in about 15 seconds, and that's mainly thanks to the SSD and the ASUS Z77 motherboard with the newest BIOS, which uses the CAT format, which is very fast. Running Windows 7, so even with Windows 7, 15-second boot, super fast. Really happy with that. But let me give you guys a quick walkthrough of the completed build and the cable management. So here is the completed build, you guys, and I'm going to try to give you guys as good a look at it as I can, given that I can't go back over there to do any adjustments on the camera. At least if I do, I'm going to need to take a quick break. But here we go. Let's start with input outputs. Input outputs on the back. You can see here the exhaust, 120mm right there, power supply, white I/O shield for the inputs and outputs. I have removed, to two of these thumb screws so I can remove the side panel. Didn't add any extra fans, so we're just rolling with the stock fans. The stock fans right now, at least the stock fan in the back, that replacement Silverstone one I did in the front, fan for the cooler, our Zelma cooler right there, and then of course the fan on the power supply, the good fan on the good power supply. And you guys can kind of see how I laid out the drives here. So optical drive up top, I went with the SSD on a 3.5 inch to 2.5 inch tray right here, and I went with the 2 terabyte Toshiba down there at the bottom, as you can see. I did that because I wanted to use the rubber mounts for the Toshiba. I also wanted to kind of space out the weight a little bit, since this is a pretty decent power supply. It's fairly heavy. That being up top made it pretty top heavy, so if I had put this up top it would have been really top heavy. As it is, it's balanced out a little bit more now, so that kind of helped. Also, I wanted to configure it so that I would only need to use one of these serial ATA leads, serial ATA power leads from the power supply. So I have one goes up to the optical drive, down here to the SSD, and then feeds down here to the 2 terabyte mechanical drive down at the bottom. So there's a kind of a quick look at the interior. If I turn it this way, hopefully you guys can see the cable management. Yeah, maybe a little bit. How about this? There we go. If this case does have a drawback, it's definitely the cable management, because really there's no room behind the motherboard tray. You've got to wedge pretty much everything back here as far towards the back of the case as you can. So that's something to consider, and I kind of managed to get most of them back there as far as I could. Used a fair amount of cable ties and whatnot to get those all sort of sorted out. There's another look up at the top with the power supply. So I was also able to do just the single power cable coming off the power supply. Routed the 4-pin up around the top there, as you can see. Comes up here. Did a little bit of tricky cable management with these guys here to get a zip tie in there so I could secure it up there, secured it again to the back there, so that could get around to the 4-pin connector, which is right up there. Here's the cable management coming from the back, and I think one of the biggest things I was able to do here to reduce the clutter in cable management was the power supply, which is right here. It has a big fat 24-pin power cable, and basically I routed that by removing this motherboard standoff, which is really tight in this corner. That's one thing to pay attention to. That is why I had to remove the motherboard in order to replace the power supply. But by removing this thumb screw, you can actually feed the cables up behind there and get them between the hard drive and 5 1/4 inch bay and the motherboard tray. And doing that will allow me to route the 24-pin up around here and just tuck it back into the corner. Got a huge amount of that bulk out of the way and tucked away, and then just fed it out there to go back to the front. I also tried to do my own little cable management thing here by adding these zip ties, which, I don't know. I did it first and I was really kind of excited that it worked, and then when I actually came time to use it, I really only used it to kind of put this front panel cable on, so there's that. And then the rest of the cables, again, just kind of tucked away, wrapped around, zip tied up as best I could that way. So there's a look at the cable management. And that is going to do it for this video, guys. Once again, this has been my little budget build featuring the Roswell Line M case, Asus P8Z77M Pro motherboard, Intel Core i3 3225 processor, and all the other components that you saw in there. If you'd like to see more build videos like this, please let me know in the comments, because I would like to do more of them. It's just a matter of if it's worth it, if you guys want to see that, and gathering parts together to actually do full complete builds. I would also love it, of course, if you would subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you liked the video. Thanks a lot for watching, you guys. See you next time on Paul's Hardware.